In the beginning, I didn't want to do it. See, when I was much younger, my dad was a minister. I don't want to be talking to people about problems and things like that. So I never wanted to be a minister. That's the main thing I fought against doing. Most of the time, people don't know what their call is. That's one of the first reasons that we have that people are stuck and they are resisting and they're afraid, just like I was, just like I just said, I was afraid of it too. People are like, okay, so what if I fail? What if I don't represent God in the right way? Maybe they've said, I'm too stupid to do that. We think about what we used to be instead of thinking about we've already overcome what we used to be and we're in a different place now. And the things that we used to be, the things that we used to do are things that catapult us into our next season and our next journey in life. So if we take those things and use them, turn your pain into purpose, then I think we can move forward and move better. Taking one step at a time, small measurable steps that we can take to get to the completion of the purpose. Spending time reading the word. That's something that helps me to grow spiritually. But not only that, it's serving in what I do, because it's good to read the scripture, but if you don't do anything with what you've read, what good is it doing for anybody else?
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's conversation. You may have been watching the podcast videos but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have ever gained value from our videos, from our conversations, it would mean so much to us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now, or even just give us a like. And what that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it allows us to bring in more important guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's conversation. Welcome to the Pathways to Wellbeing Podcast. My name's Sophia from Sacred You, and with us today, I'm really excited to speak to the beautiful Latasha Morgan. Welcome, Latasha. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited because we're all talking about purpose in action, which is such a great topic. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. And Latasha, you are a certified professional life coach with the deep roots in pastoral counseling and personal development. I'd love to talk with you more about that. But can you first start? Would you like to share what first led you to explore this path of coaching and also your ministry work?
Okay. In the beginning, I didn't want to do it. See, when I was much younger, my dad was a minister. So when I was younger and I used to see him always having to help people, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be talking to people about problems and things like that. So I never wanted to be a minister. That's the main thing I fought against doing. But come to find out with coaching and counseling, coaching, I had been doing it anyway, because people always came to me about their problems, wanted me to help them solve them. I went to Liberty University to go into the seminary. And so in there, I started taking pastoral counseling. And I loved it. I loved it so much that I went back and got my Master of Arts in Pastoral Counseling too, after I got my Master of Divinity. And so after that, I went to do my life coaching certifications. And I got into it because, like I said, I love the pastoral counseling so much. And I thought about it. Tasha, you've been trying to help people get into their calling anyway. I was always one to listen to people when they talk about, okay, I had a dream about something, or I saw myself in a dream and I was doing this, or I was doing that. I was preaching a sermon, or I was doing something else. And sometimes people get stuck and they don't start moving. And I will always say, I remember you said, or aren't you supposed to be doing this? So if you're supposed to be doing it, let's find a way how you can get there. So that's how I went on ahead and got into coaching. And I love it. And as it relates to ministry, like I said, after doing computer technology and all of that, I said, okay, I'm finished. And then it was after that, 2 years later, I believe, that I went to Liberty University because, like I said, I didn't want to do ministry. But I've been in leadership and been working in church all my life anyway, since I was a teenager, saved at the age of 5. So that's how I got into it.
It's nice to know. And it's really nice to know that you love what you're doing now.
I do.
You get a lot out of it after first resisting it. So thank you so much for sharing that. Really, really.
Thank you.
You
You're
are
welcome.
an inspiration. And can I just take a moment just to honor you?
Oh,
I really honor you for following that calling. Even at first you resisted it, right? But now it's like it's following what you're wanting to do. So I'd just like to honor you and thank you for bringing your beautiful passion, your wisdom to the world. And I'd love to know, Latasha, in your experience, many women that you serve and even in the world are really searching for their purpose, but they feel because they feel so disconnected from it. What do you think are some of the biggest reasons women struggle to understand or embrace their God-given identity and their calling in whatever field that may be?
First, most of the time, people don't know what their call is. So many people say, and that's one of the reasons we have so much suicide, right? Those are the questions they ask. What am I here for? I'm a waste of matter. There's no reason for me to be here. So most people don't know what it is. And I think that's the first thing that needs to take place. That's one of the first reasons that we have that people are stuck and they are resisting. But then too, they have self-doubt as well. And they're afraid just like I just said, I was afraid of it too. People are like, okay, so what if I fail? What if I don't represent God in the right way? Or what if maybe they've said I'm too stupid to do that. Having somebody said to you that you can't do something, or having you said to yourself, I'm not capable of this because I don't know what so-and-so knows. I don't know what Sue or Sally knows over there. I don't think I can do that. And I think that's one of the main reasons people resist, or they don't want to get into their purpose, or those are some of the main reasons.
Thank you for sharing that. How do we find our purpose? If you met someone who's, I don't know why I'm here, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, what advice do you give them? How can people, women, especially women, find their purpose?
Okay, here's what I start off doing with my clients, and it's what I started doing as well. So I first started with my name. Most people don't pay attention to the name they have. They just think it's a name, but the name actually declares what your identity is. And also, I look at the name as a prophetic word. If we go back in time, say since I'm raised in the church, in biblical times, every time somebody had a name and you see a name mentioned in the scripture, normally it has why that person was named that. And not only that, but whatever they did in that particular moment lined up with what their name is. So I see the name as a prophetic word spoken over your life. It gives you a beginning, a middle, and end of how your life may be. So just like Moses, if we look in scripture, Moses means to draw out, right? Isn't that exactly what happened to him? He was drawn out of the water into the palace, out of the palace back into Midian, from Midian back into Egypt so he can draw out other people, right? Isn't that what he did? So when we talk about names, it shows you exactly who you are and what you're supposed to do. So I don't just go on the surface of the name. I actually do a deep dive into it. You want to go into your name and you want to look at what your name means and dissect that finally, that it becomes so simple that even a child can understand it. Then I want you to always think of every time that you forget who you are, every time somebody says your name, they're speaking that over you. They don't even know that, but they're speaking that word over you so that you'll be reminded of who you are and what you're called to do. Then I go and see what my personality is and how all those things connect together along with my gifts. And you find if those things are not available to you, so what you do is you think of the one thing you do without much work. It doesn't take you that much to do. It's like breathing to you. It's just like coaching for me. It's like breathing fresh air. I get that excitement about it. And you want to also your purpose by the impact it makes.
That's really good. I've never actually heard of that before, about diving deep into the meaning of your name, sharing that. Because
You're
if we
welcome.
come to really think about it, our name, we were given it when we were born.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just another word, but it has a very special meaning to it. So yes, thank you for deep diving into your name, and that can help
You're
you
welcome.
on the
Mm-hmm.
path to find your purpose. Thank you.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Welcome.
Now, you did mention about having fear or doubt. So in your experience, what are some other emotional or mental blocks that tend to keep women stuck when they know that they're called to something greater?
Sometimes I think one of the other things that keeps us from getting stuck is if you're still, it's not just fear and it's not just doubt and fear, but it's also shame and guilt. If I go into this area that I'm being called into, how people going to look at me based on what I used to do
Yes.
or what I used to be? So I think those are two things too that keep people stuck and keep them from operating at a purpose. Because everybody's gonna be like, because I've done that before, and I'm sure most people do. We think about what we used to be instead of thinking about we've already overcome what we used to be, and we're in a different place now. And the things that we used to be, the things that we used to do are things that catapult us into our next season and our next journey in life. So if we take those things and use them, turn your pain into purpose or your experiences into purpose, then I think we can move forward and move better.
Yes. Thank you. I'm just writing that down. Turn your pain into your purpose. To really go into the depths of it and to get the message and to help you. And talking of pain, we hear it so much in today's world that we all have, both men and especially women, have, excuse me, a lot of trauma. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's childhood trauma, whether it's generational trauma from the systems, the cultures that we live in, but it's all unhealed. So how does that trauma interfere with someone's ability to live purposely?
I think that the trauma is what's going to cause the fear and the anxiety, and it's going to, like you said, keep you from operating in your purpose. But I think that, let me see if I can put it into words here. The trauma really is to me like like chains that need to be broken over your life, right? That's how I see trauma. So in order to break the chains, you got to first have a key, right? So the healing is that key to keeping you from that is the key that's going to unlock the trauma in your life. And that means you're going to have to go get whatever assistance you need, whether that's counseling, therapy, whether it's from child abuse or any of those things. And with forgiveness, forgiving those that have caused the trauma and forgiving yourself, because a lot of times people are angry at themselves as well because of what they've experienced.
Thank you for explaining that. And it's so true. Like we all do carry trauma. But when we can seek the assistance of people like yourself to help overcome it, then it's really like just helping us to fulfill our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, as you said, that trauma is there to be a guide. I'd love to know more about your approach and how you can help other women to gain clarity and confidence, especially as you blend the biblical principles with your coaching tools. So can you walk us through how your process helped women to gain clarity and confidence?
For walking in their purpose?
Yeah, for walking in their purpose.
Okay. Like I said, I do go through the name meaning, the spiritual gifts, and the personality assessments, and we get that. But in order to gain the confidence, you have to, I actually prefer that people start putting their purpose to work by taking small steps, like making a plan, setting a goal, or how you're going to operate in that purpose. Because it's good to know what your purpose is, it's good to know what your name means, your gifts, and all of those things. But you have to know how to put those things together and work. And knowing doesn't do anybody any good because the whole point of your purpose is to serve people, correct? I start with, after we know what the gifts are and everything is, we start making a plan on how we're going to fulfill that purpose, taking one step at a time, small, measurable steps that we can take to get to the completion of the purpose. And so I work with people with doing that, setting a schedule on what we're going to do. So on Monday, I might do one thing that's going to lead to get into my purpose. So say, for instance, if my purpose, part of my purpose is teaching, right? One of my gifts is teaching, and I want to be a teacher. So I'm going to look up and see, what does that entail? How do I become a teacher? Okay, what education do I have and what education do I need? I want to do that. How am I going to get that money to? How am I going to align my resources to get to that specific goal? So we want to set goals to achieve what we want to, the purpose that we want to get to. Now, our confidence is built by doing that, because you never know what you can do until you start actually doing it. So that's how I get people started, after we know what those gifts are and what your name means.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be incredible to find out, to go into really the depths of your meaning of your name, and to find out what your spiritual gifts are, and to really follow that guidance, to follow what you're passionate about. Thank you for sharing that. Latasha, we know we've got so many things that we're overwhelmed with. We live in the digital age. We've got social media. You've got all the demands of life, especially for women who have family and jobs. If someone is really feeling overwhelmed by everything, and especially the things that they should be doing, I know we have a habit, especially women, of should. They call it shooting all over ourselves. You should do that, should be doing that, I should be doing this. How can people really begin to narrow their focus and to take their purposeful action?
Okay, see, I have that problem too. I've had that problem too. You have so many things going, especially people like look like me. Everybody says you're strong enough to handle this. So it doesn't matter about all the things or whether you're overwhelmed. Overwhelming is not something you should even bring out of your mouth. But I get overwhelmed too. And what I always think to do is make a schedule of what I need to do. That way, if I have a schedule set, then I know what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and what time I'm going to do it. Even if, and this is something I learned in seminary, even if it's all of my day is in a schedule, then that way I don't become overwhelmed, because I already have a plan, right? You're supposed to make a plan and set your goals. Write it down, make it plain so that you know what you're going to be doing. And as it relates to social media and stuff, and like in business and stuff, we have all the social media to do, we have the content to write and all those things. How about delegate? Because so many times, so often, most of the time, we think we have to do everything by ourselves. And I do that. I want to do everything by myself because then I know it's the way I want it done. And that's how I want it done. And if I don't do it myself, then it's not going to get done the way I want it done. And that's really actually isn't a good way to be, right? Because that's having control. How about if you release and delegate, then that means they give God room to work in somebody else to help you with your goals. And I found that to work for me. Like I said, set some goals, set your calendar, get your calendar set, put your schedule in it, and let that work for you. And then, like I said, and delegate because you can't do everything yourself.
No, you certainly can't do everything yourself. And especially women, I think, have issues of control. We're wanting to control everything because we want it to be turned out a certain way. But for me, if I'm saying, and I'm assuming you too, Latasha, is I just hand everything over to God.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that my business partner or my boss or whatever it is God. And I just go, okay, you need to do this. You need to look after that, whatever it is. And it certainly helps with the overwhelm. Do you have any other time management strategies or skills that you would like to share that you've used and found effective for when we're trying, for clients who are trying to balance their work, their ministry life, and their family?
All I've used is a calendar because it seems to work for everything. And not only the calendar, but like I said, the delegating, because all those two things work for everything. So I only use those two things because I haven't found anything that I like that works for me. And most of the clients that I've had, I've used those same methods and they work for them. I think the only difference would be because the person is different. So your calendar would look different. It really just based on the person. So some people calendar, they can sit in one day and go ahead and do their calendar for the whole month. Maybe that'll work for them. Maybe it's one day at a time. You take it one day at a time. But I always think that the calendar and delegation work all the time.
Yeah, they do. When we take that time to write down what we've got to do, but we think all the shoulds and everything else, even if we think we don't have time to write that down, then you feel so much lighter because you've got it out of here, it's on paper, and you can let it go and just go through the list one by one. I agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. And Tasha, you are doing profound work with individuals and also faith-based communities, which I'd like to go into, but I'm very interested to hear a story or a moment that stayed with you as a confirmation that you're walking in your own purpose.
With a client?
Yeah, a client or just one of your experiences.
Walking in my purpose? Yeah. I had this client, and I can't say too much about her, but because everything's confidential, but her finding out what her name means, especially someone whose self-esteem is not all the way there, seeing her exclaim so much excitement, that's what stood out to me. Like she was looking for a name. So we found her name was associated with prophecy, right? So what does a prophet do? And so it's bringing an announcement. A prophet makes an announcement, a proclamation, and they say what thus saith, right? So it's like a butler coming in. If you have a nice home, you have a butler. They announce the person that's coming in the door. They're saying, Master such and such is here, right? Mr. Morgan is here. That's a proclamation. That's an announcement. And that's what prophets do. And she started learning what her name means and her gifts and her personality and how all of those things align together. And when she found that out, she ended up having her own business. It motivated her to understand who God really saw, the way God saw her, and not look at herself the way she sees her and maybe other people, because she wasn't doing all those things before she found out what her name means and what her purpose is. And not only that, today she's not huge in politics, but she's starting out in politics. And that was surprising to me. And that's why that stuck out to me. And that made me feel great. I always feel great. And I love when people start making those excited noises when they find out about who they are, because most people don't know.
That's true, especially if you don't know the meaning of your name. And would you like to share, Latasha, what does Latasha mean for you? What's the meaning of Latasha?
Latasha means born on Christmas. It comes from the root word natalis, meaning born on Christmas. It's an Italian word. But when I saw that, I thought that was stupid. I did. I thought it was stupid. I said, okay, so that doesn't mean anything to me. But then when you go into it, who do we believe was born on Christmas? So when you go into another version and you read, because when you go research her name, there'll be different versions, right? So because there are different languages. So the other version means Christ-like. Okay, then I'm supposed to make a disciple of people. Maybe I'm a leader then, and I'm supposed to make disciples. What did Jesus do? He mediated. He made a difference. He was a leader in the world. When I saw that, like I said, first I thought it was stupid. Then I began to understand as I continued to look at it and do a deep dive into it. Because sometimes when you see your name, you'll see, I always like for people to go look up a person that can relate to what their name means. Maybe that person did something that relates to that name.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. For me, Christ-like, born on Christmas Day, it's connecting with that divine spark and helping others, serving the world in whatever way that you can. So thank you for sharing it. It is a beautiful name.
Thank you. Thank you.
And before we wrap up, Latasha, I'd love to ask you, what is one small habit that creates big spiritual growth?
Actually, by spending time reading the word. Now, I love doing that. I was raised doing that. That's something that helps me to grow spiritually. But not only that, it's serving in what I do, because it's good to read the scripture, but if you don't do anything with what you've read, what good is it doing for anybody else? So that's how I grow spiritually. That's a small habit.
To read the Bible whenever you can, or whatever scripture it is. Thank you. And if you could put one message on a billboard for every woman to see, what would it say?
I want you to always remember that you have been chosen for a specific path. And what's in you is necessary for the life of someone else.
Thank you. I'm just taking it. Very powerful. To remember that you have been born for a specific purpose. Just writing that down. And one final question. Is there any question that I could have asked you? And how would you answer? Tell us, or before that, tell us about your business. Tell us about the Majestic Services. Tell us all about that.
Majestic Talks LLC is a coaching and consulting firm. We specialize in purpose through workshops. Oh my goodness, like I can't talk. Workshops. And we're also working on self-paced courses that you can take without being on a platform. And they're like books that you can read with a devotional, a workbook, and you can read those and fill out that as well as a journal. They come with journals too to help you along the way in purpose. We also do the Majestic Talks show. That show that's on every fourth Thursday of the month. And that show we invite different coaches, mental health providers, coaches, different people, even authors, speakers on there. We talk about mental health. also related to Bible as well. Everything I do is biblically based. I grew up that way and I still do, because there's nothing you can do without God in a way. But whether we know it or not, he's always in the midst, whether we like it or not. So we do that. Also, we have Purpose Wednesdays. I do that every Wednesday. And on that, we talk about purpose, on how you can walk out the purposeful path. We talk about overcoming fear and doubt. We talk about different topics about purpose. We have blogs as well, where we talk about disarming the deceiver. We talk about the purposeful path, like I said. We talk about that as well. I try to align everything with everything I do. The blogs, the courses, the podcast, all of them align together. You may see the same topic, but it's just different for each person, because everybody have a different learning ability. So I want to make sure that I reach everybody. So we do all of that there over at Majestic Talks. And that name came from my conversations I have with God and when my dad was living, because I would always leave out different than what I was before I talked to them. So I want people to have an amazing and life-changing experience.
Good. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. And I'm certainly going to be looking up your website. For everyone who is listening, do yourself a favor and click on the links below. Check out Latasha's website, everything that she has to offer, and even reach out, just have a conversation, because you never know where it's going to. Is there any other question that I could have asked you?
I think you covered everything. There's nothing I can think of that you didn't ask that needed to be asked. I think we've covered everything. And off the top of my head, I can't think of anything else.
Thank you. It's been an honor. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. It has been a real honor and getting to know you. And I said I will be checking out your website and encouraging everyone else to.
Thank you.
And I hope to talk to you again sometime very soon. Thank you for being on Pathways to Wellbeing.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed talking to you as well.
You are so very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today for our conversation with Latasha, who reminded us that purpose isn't just a destination, it is a daily decision. It is time to dive deep into the meaning of your name and step into your own power. Please click on the links below to find out more on everything that Latasha has to offer, including all her courses and her workshops. For more empowering conversations, tools, and strategies, do follow Sacred You on all our social media, or visit our website at www.sacredyou, that's the letter U, .love. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another episode. In Latasha's words, remember, you have been born for a purpose, and it is time to turn your pain into your passion. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast today. Stay grounded, stay inspired, stay connected, and until next time, keep walking your pathway to well-being.